Okay, now these look very similar to what we did a while back, but they're not the same. Okay, get my multiplication table here, and we'll be ready to roll. You don't need your 2, 3, 4 terms today because there's always going to be 3. Kind of defeats the purpose of it. Now, you are to solve this equation. There are 2 answers to the equation. Okay, obviously you got x second. But now you're back to having x to the first, so you have to use your factoring properties, not the linear property square root method. Factoring, okay? So you see your 0, just check it if it's there. And you have 3 terms. So we know that with 3 terms, GCF and the table. However, there's no x, there's no negative. 1, 2, and 6 is 1. Get out of there. Okay. All right, now ABC. We run into a little problem we haven't seen arise. 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. Okay, so it's a mismatch. Means it's a positive times a negative. So you add 2, positive 2. 6 divided by 1 is 6. That adds to negative 5. Now follow me here, okay? Follow me, otherwise you're going to go on a wild goose chase. 1 plus negative 6 is negative 5. That is too wide for 2, okay? If you think of the value 5 and 2, 5 is too wide, okay? You got to narrow the gap. So that's not it. 6 divided by 2 is 3. That is too narrow. As soon as I go under the 2, it doesn't matter positive or negative, okay? As soon as you are under any kind of a 2, you're not going to find it, okay? Because see, like when I did 1 plus negative 5, that's not under the 2, okay? That's over. So I keep going. Now I'm under, okay, because you see 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. So as soon as you go under that, now regardless of positive or negative, as soon as you add these and it's some kind of value under 2, okay, it could be negative or positive, which 1 is, it's under, okay, you put QF. Means you're not going to be able to find the answers by doing the factoring, okay, QF. So again, I kept going, and you'll see me do this again. So here's what you do. You're going to write x equals outside the box. And this is a formula you're going to use. Now, it looks really intimidating and hard to remember, but there's a little song, and I'm going to sing it. Opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. B squared means to the second power. Anytime I say squared, that means to the second power. Opposite of b, plus or minus the square root. B squared, that means to the second power, minus 4ac. B squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. So, what you will be doing is simply writing that formula. Opposite of b, plus or minus the square root. B squared, that means b to the second, and get parentheses around it, okay? B squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. Okay, put parentheses where needed. Now here's what you do. You start putting the ABC numbers in. So no x's. X is here. Opposite of b, that's the only number you switch to opposite. It would go from positive 2 to negative 2. And then b is 2. And then 4, a is 1. And c is negative 6. Then the a is 1, okay? Now here's what you do. You make a plus minus out here, because there's a plus minus right there. In front of it, you're going to have a negative 2. You know what you have on bottom because you can just simply take 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Now what comes after it? Well, I get this big square root. So set up your square root. You're going to put this minus sign right in the middle. And before it, you got 2 to the second power. And that would mean 2 times 2, which is 4. And then after it, you have 4 times 1 times negative 6. Now we're going to do this a quicker way in the next problem, but this is how this is working. 4 times 1 times negative 6, negative 24. So after the minus, you put a negative 24. Plus, plus, that'd be 28. Now you got to find the square root of that, okay? So you go second square root, and then 28. I got 5.29. So you put a 5.29 after it. Now here's how you find your answers. You got to do it on the calculator just like this. Negative 2 plus 5.29. Then click equals and then hit divided by 2. It's got to be done just like this. Divided by 2. 1.645, you can round it to 1.65. Now you clear your calculator. Now you take negative 2 and you minus 5.29. Negative 7.29, click equals, hope you did that, and then divide it by 2. Negative 3.65. Okay, those are your answers. Now, next problem. Negative 2x to the second power minus 5x plus 16 equals 0. So we know there's 2 answers. We have x to the second and we have x. We have to use factoring then. We can't use the linear property square root. Okay, I know that was nice that one day, but so you're set and you have 3 terms. Gcf Table. So I do not have x at the end. I do have the negative in the front. 2, 5, and 16 are only in row 1, but it's negative 1, so I'm going to be doing it. Okay. So that's positive 2x second. Negative 5 divided by negative 1 is positive 5x. Remember, you're not dividing by x, and then negative 16. So I put this negative 1 down here just like before. Okay, and you cross it off, A, B, C from here. 2 times negative 16, okay, is negative 32, so that's a mismatch. A mismatch that has to add to positive 5. So start dividing. 32 divided by 1 is 32. Oh yeah, mismatch, positive, negative. 1 plus negative 32, that is higher than the 5 value, okay? When I say higher, I'm not paying attention to the negative, okay? 31 is higher than 5. 32 divided by 2 is 16. So is adding that still higher than 5? Or I don't want to say higher. Is it still too wide to be 5? Yes, okay? Now, 32 divided by 3 is a decimal, okay? Decimal. 32 divided by 4 is 8. 4 plus negative 8, okay? That is under 5, okay? Again, that's too narrow of a gap now to ever make 5. As soon as you cross over the 5 value, you know, you start kind of higher than it. As soon as you cross over it, okay, and get too low, too small of a gap to be 5, which that's too small of a gap to make 5, okay, never happened. Stop dividing and put QF. You have to apply the quadratic formula. So anytime you're adding, and you're like, I'm getting closer, but then I go over and go under what I'm looking for, okay, that's quadratic formula time. So, make the line. Opposite of B and put a plus minus, okay? Opposite of B, plus or minus the square root. b squared, so you put b in parentheses to the second. That's what squared means. Minus 4ac, and the 4 is always in there. It's part of the formula. You can see it right there, and so is the 2. Over 2a, or it's like in science. You get formulas that have numbers there every time. Okay? So the opposite of my b, here's my ABC, so I switch my positive 5 to a negative 5. And then b, I put in 5, it's positive 5, so that's the only part I make opposite. 4, and then a is 2, and c is negative 16. And then a here is 2. So you're going to line this up, and you're like, what do I do with this negative 1? Nothing, get it out, okay? I can't factor it. Okay, so negative 5. Then we know that 2 times 2 on the bottom is 4. Now, make the square root and just plug the inside of it into a calculator. So you have a 5 in parentheses, second, minus 4, 2, and negative 16. Now you just put 153 in there, but you need to find the square root of it, okay? So second square root, 153, 12.37. Don't just put 153 there. You need to find the square root of that number inside, 12.37. Okay, so I take negative 5 plus 12.37, click equals, then divide by 4. 1.84 is good enough. Then you take negative 5 minus 12.37, click equals, then divide it by 4. Negative 4.34. Okay, so these are irrational solutions. That's why the T-chart doesn't work. Okay, next problem. Negative 6x to the second power plus 9x plus 8 equals 0. So there's 2 answers. Okay, we have x to the second and we have an x to the first. So you are factoring. Okay. So check it, you're at 0, so there's 3 terms. So Gcf table. I'm pretending that I'm just setting it up like I did on that test a while back. There's no x, there is a negative. 6, 9, and 8, those only appear in the first row, so negative 1, but it's negative 1 instead of 1, so I'll do it. Okay. So 6x to the second. Negative 9x, negative 8. X's stay the same. So you can cross that out, bring it over here, even though I probably won't end up using it. Okay, positive 6 times negative 8, that's going to be negative 48. So that's a mismatch. And it has to add to the b, which is negative 9. Start dividing, okay? Positive, negative on a mismatch. You're going to have 1 in 48. Now if you add that, that's way too extreme to be. I like the word extreme better. Let's use extreme rather than high or lower, because that's going to throw people off with the negatives, positives, okay? That's way too extreme to ever make that, okay? 48 divided by 2 is 24. Add, still way too extreme, okay? 48 divided by 3 is 16. Still too extreme, but you're getting closer, okay? Four is 12. Now I am no longer too extreme, I am too narrow, okay? So as soon as I'm not too extreme to be negative 9 and it's too narrow, QF that, okay? As soon as you cross over the line, think of that as like a line. because you start extreme and you get closer, then when you go over the line, there's no going back. That's a quadratic formula, QF, okay? So, draw the line, put the plus minus. Opposite of B, plus or minus D square root. B squared minus 4AC, so I put a B in parentheses, squared means it's to the second. Minus 4AC, and then 2A. Okay, there's right there for you too. So, opposite of B, you got to make the -9 back into a +9. Okay, and then B, you just use the -9. 4, and then A is 6. Now, one thing a lot of people mess up on, the C, it's -8. A lot of people just put 8 in there. No, minus is negative. And then the A there is 6. So bring this up here, break it down. So in front of the plus minus, you have a 9. Under the fraction, you have 2 times 6. Well, you take 2 times 6, that's 12. Now, after the plus minus, that's when you have that square root. Okay, so just plug it into your calculator, parentheses, -9 to the second minus 4, 6, and -8, just like that. So 273. By the way, if you end up with a negative in the square root, you need to call me. Okay, something's wrong. Now, don't put 273 down there. You need to find what the heck the square root of 273 is. So second, key next to 7, 273, 16.52. And that's what I will be lining up after that. Now I'm good to solve it. So 9 plus 16.52, click equals, and divide by 12. 2.1, 2.12, or 2.13. Then clear it, and you need to take 9 minus 16.52. Click equals, and then click divided by 12. Don't try to do it all in the same screen. Negative 0.63. There's your two answers. Okay. 2x to the second power plus 3x minus 11 equals 0. So x has two solutions. Okay. You have x to the second and you have x, so now you're back to having to apply the factoring properties. So check that. You're at 0. That's good. Okay. So you're ready to go. 3 terms. So GCF and the table. No x, no negative. 2, 3, and 11 is 1. Okay, so we're not going to do anything. By the way, you cross this out if you put it there. After you've failed on the T-chart and its quadratic formula, that's really not applied. Okay, 2 times negative 11, that's going to be negative 22. Okay, so that's a mismatch. Positive, negative, okay. Add to positive 3. 22 divided by 1 is 22. Way too extreme, okay. You always start, on these T-tails, you notice how you always start extreme and you get closer to it. It's when you go over it where way too extreme still. Now we get taken for a goose chase. 22 divided by 3 decimal, 22 divided by 4 decimal, 22 divided by 5 decimal, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now I believe I already just did that. Okay, I already have those two numbers. Don't put them again. Okay, if you end up just repeating the same two numbers and you haven't found it yet, that's another indication you'll be doing the QF. Okay, if it's the same factor pair, I don't care, positive, negative, don't write it. Okay, so opposite of B, plus or minus the square root. b squared minus 4ac. b squared minus 4ac, remember square means a second power, and then over 2a. Over 2a, it's just that you see it right there, just copy it, okay? All right, so the opposite of b is negative 3, and then b is 3, and 4a is 2, and c is negative 11, okay? And then the a is 2. Okay, so plus negative. Now here's the positive, here's the plus or minus sign. You have negative 3 in front. On bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. Now you need to find what the heck is the square root. So you draw the square root and you line this up. So parentheses 3 to the second minus 4, 2, negative 11. 97, you don't put 97, you need to put it in the square root and figure out what the square root of 97 is. So second, 9.85. Okay, now we're ready to go. Negative 3 plus 9.85, and then divide by 4. Click equals first. 1.71. Okay, then go back to your negative 3, and now you click minus 9.85. Click equals, then divide by 4. Negative 3.21. Okay.